Teryl, it's the beginning of the month and the time that many managers dread receiving resignations, which means you have to start the recruitment process again. I know there have been a couple of questions from our recruitment division as well as our HR people in terms of the veracity of CVs that we're getting.
Well, they're saying about 1 in 5 has got quite serious exaggerations in them as well as inaccuracy. So that's 20%. And if we're receiving that, and having spoken to a few other companies, that seems to be the norm. So what we're seeing is not everybody are total lies, but people exaggerate achievements, or they make it sound like they were in a more senior position than they actually were in. They also, if they were on a particular project, they will exaggerate their contribution to that project. So what happens when you start doing reference checks is that you get a much, the other point of view, and that can damage the way you're perceived. We understand why people are doing that, because recruiters are using filters. So if you put in some highlights, you might come up better against other people in the sort of filtering process. So it's understandable, but the sort of things we're seeing as well is that if you have had a bad experience, what you will do is use a friend's telephone number, and then your friend or family member will give you a reference and so on. So there's a lot of that kind of thing happening, but it's a tight job market and people want to rise to the top of the pile when recruiters are looking for particular positions.
Sure, but you don't want to be found out once you're employed to have not told the truth on your CV, or to be out of your depth perhaps in your new role.
Well, being out of your depth, I think sometimes isn't seen as being a particular problem, because people think they'll get trained when they're there. And it's very difficult for companies to evaluate the level of what somebody is capable of doing. It's when you tell serious stories, for example, the dates that you were in a particular company are incorrect, or, as I said earlier, things like projects, your involvement, your level of seniority are inaccurate, then companies actually are entitled to curtail your probation period if they find out, think that your CV is seriously inaccurate afterwards. And once you've created inaccuracies in your CV, it's very difficult to change it. So the advice I would give you, if you're putting together a CV, is get somebody in a senior position, a friend or a company, somebody that you know in HR, to read through your CV and say, does it sell me positively, but is it also accurate? Because when you go into an interview, if you have a good interviewer, they're going to find the things that don't make sense.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is, try and make your CV look attractive. If you want it to sell you, make it sell you.
Check the spelling.
Yes, definitely. And I think what we've talked about as well, we're talking strongly about social media being part of your presence today. If it's part of your presence, make sure your CV is aligned with your social media presence, so that if somebody goes and checks, they're going to see the same story of you, that you have a picture out there which somebody can look at and say, well, that's who Joe is, and so I want to interview them.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.